Hello everyone, how's it going? It's Ben. Welcome aboard the Bonnie Rackham. We are now on to the penultimate episode of the rundown of Season 4. Wow, yeah, Season 4, Episode 9. What an episode to get into. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight into this one.
Get us underway.
Okay, so for a title, penultimate title, I've decided to call this one quite a simple one. I've called it Abandon Ship. I think, yeah, it's quite a poignant title. We lose the Walrus in this one. We lose everyone on the Walrus. And, you know, Abandon Ship is just very much abandon all hope, you know, sort of thing. It's very much that vibe. So, yeah, let's get into Abandon Ship and get a brief summary and a rating sorted.
First item.
So this one is written by Jonathan E. Steinberg and Dan Schultz, and it is directed by Steve Boyum. So yeah, good hands. So yeah, here we are at the penultimate episode of Black Sails. A tense roller coaster of an episode with some great cat and mouse scenes between Silver and Flint, some powerful flashback scenes between them, laced throughout, building up the suspense. Woodes Rogers grows impatient and tries once more against advice to convince Madi to call off the war, threatening Silver's life if she doesn't comply. But just as determined as Flint, Madi is prepared for whatever consequences may come. And consequences do come. Elsewhere, Jack is being optimistic with Featherstone after a nice chat with his timely navigator, but misfortune strikes in an untimely fashion. Doesn't make it any less hilarious though. Will Jack make it to Skeleton Island? Are Silver and Flint friends again? Will Woodes Rogers be defeated? It's all left in the balance for a great finale. This is just as good a penultimate season episode as the last two seasons have been, mixing action and drama perfectly, with gorgeous lighting, tone-perfect music, and fantastic scenery as a backdrop. So yeah, this is absolutely a 10 out of 10 episode on all counts. So of course it is going to get that full house rating. Yeah, season 4's first 10 out of 10. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into this deep dive.
Next item.
Okay, so let's do Jack first, and then a bit of Billy and Woodes Rogers, and then that great Woodes Rogers and Madi scene. And then we'll say our goodbyes to the Walrus and everyone on board. Ending, of course, with Silver and Flint. Okay, yeah, so fill your cups. We have got a lot of toast to fallen men this episode. So we begin with Jack, Featherstone, and a very old man whose actual credited name is Mr. McCoy. Sadly, the actor is no longer with us, so our first glass raise is sadly a real one. Ron Smezrak. Apologies, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I've not seen him in anything else, but yeah, R.I.P. to him. R.I.P. Ron. Okay. So yeah, a lovely scene to start with Jack and McCoy. A great, very short and sweet character who's clearly been off the account for some time now and is back on the seas and is reflecting with Jack, who, as far as the show is concerned, is in his prime. So yeah, there is something really bittersweet about this scene though, now watching it, knowing so much more about the history of John Rackham, Jack Rackham, as if, yeah, there had been a season 5 and they'd kept things still along the same lines of interweaving real events, then sadly Jack, he wouldn't be long for it. And who knows, would have been lots of opportunities with her. But anyway, Jack joins him as he's looking out fondly to the sea, and Jack understandably is a little concerned to start here. It's been over 20 years since this guy sailed with Avery. I love we get the first of Jack's he does a few this episode, and yeah, here he's not very confident right now, like I say, and asks him if he knows he's sure where he's going. Seriously, I've got quite a lot riding on this, he says when the man just gives him a smile back as his reassurance. But far from that bumbling old drunk we got a glimpse of last episode in the brothel, this guy really looks like he's at home on the water. He's calm, he's collected. And yeah, I really love the look he gives to Jack. It's got a kind of kids, they don't even know they're born, kind of sort of look to it. But yeah, he's actually about to give Jack his dues. He says one day you'll leave the account, have a wife, kids. Yeah, that's all a little bit complicated with Jack, mate. You don't know all the ins and outs of that one, but you know, the sentiment's there. And yeah, basically this man has given us his story in so many words, and the story for many men who leave the account, grow old, you know, they marry, have families, see less and less of the sea. until it becomes a memory, like a painting on a wall, static and irrelevant. More dialogue poetry. And he continues, but she'll keep on calling you. And when she does, you'll step into that painting and feel that swell between your feet. It will all come back as if it were like yesterday. Yeah, beautiful words, beautiful words. And I can confirm my first time very recently on the sea, in a boat, on a ferry. So alright, not quite the same, but yeah, it was cool. It was awesome. I felt like a pirate. I didn't look like one, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, Jack, seemingly a bit calmer now, can take something from this. Yeah, again, just two men at different stages in their life, and it's poignant considering where McCoy is about to end up and where Jack inevitably will. And yeah, McCoy points out he's been watching you and yours on the account accomplish things I, or those I sailed with, could never dream of. Another powerful moment for Jack here. This man who's admitted to sailing with Henry Avery, who we know is one of Jack's heroes and his inspiration, is telling him here, you know, we never came close to achieving the things you have. Really makes me emotional for Jack. You can see how much he loves this life, just being on the sea, and yeah, just that confirmation from this guy of like, I know who you are, I know what you've been doing, you and yours, whether he means Anne, Teach, Flint and everyone, you know, I think he means everyone as a whole, but he's been this, you know, this old retiree is sort of telling him, yeah, I'm jealous sort of thing, I'm jealous. And yeah, this guy kind of knows what's up, knows what the kind of the aim is here, and he can tell that Jack loves being on the account too, and he knows that Woodes Rogers is the main aim here, so that they can kind of continue the life. And yeah, and Jack sort of says with emotion that and more. I really wish these two had found each other a little bit sooner, as I think Mr. McCoy would have been a really good addition to Jack's crew to have around for a little while, a really good influence. But maybe they met at the right place and right time to both be able to end up here on that respect they kind of have for each other at the moment. Maybe it was just kind of meant to be. But yeah, Mr. McCoy says he'll take him to Skeleton Island, and he sort of finishes by saying, hold on to this for as long as you can, for all of those who once had it and walked away. Yeah, a really, really lovely scene, a strong contender for scene of the episode for me, in an episode where so many scenes could be voted the best. So, after that great, lovely scene between retired veteran and a pirate in his prime, Jack is feeling hopeful, and he joins Featherstone in the cabin. And Featherstone is kind of plotting out courses. As we'll see in a bit, he is thankfully a decent navigator, and has got enough general info on Skeleton Island's whereabouts. So yeah, Jack kind of has an inspirational speech. You know, he's sort of saying as great as the Urca cell was, he can feel that this one is different. Deep down, he says he knew the Urca gold would really cause as much problems as solve them, which it did. But he sort of says, if that old man can get them there, if they can defeat Flint and the governor, and I feel we can, he says passionately. I don't know why, but I feel it. Am I mad? Tell me, I'm asking. But yeah, Jack's hyped up, bless him, but he's trying to stay realistic. Obviously a very different kind of Jack, a very different, something's happened in that conversation. Very different outcome here from when he left Anne to start this seemingly impossible task of killing Flint. And yeah, so Featherstone smiles and says, yeah, he's thought the same thing. I'm not sure if he's humouring Jack a little bit here, you know, not wanting to dampen his spirits, or is he being honest? You know, I think going by the next scene, it is the former. And he's sort of telling him what he wants to hear a little bit, you know, just being a good friend. You know, he's seen he's in good spirits and just doesn't want to dampen them. But yeah, I really do like the friendship that they've developed since meeting in season 2, or at least becoming better acquainted. I can't remember if they knew each other previously. And so yeah, the camera just starts to zoom into Jack, and the music sort of hyping up. You know, really getting into, we're really getting the vibes Jack's bringing off, really getting that hope. And Jack sort of says, the result ahead of us promises to be a victory of a different sort. True victory, freedom, in every sense of the word. How many men have ever known it? How remarkable a moment is this? I'm laughing already because I know what's coming. How fortunate are we to be standing on the threshold of it? And there's a knock at... and there's... I can't even get through it. Oh my god, right. I'm nearly crying already from laughter. Then there's a knock on the door, and a weary crewmate enters and cuts to just one of the best cold cuts, sharp cuts, I'm not sure what you call them, just in the whole show. Yeah, Mr. McCoy is dead. It's not funny. It's not funny. Let's raise one to him before I absolutely laugh my head off out. Be really inappropriate. It's already too late. But yeah, honestly, no. R.I.P. to him. R.I.P. to Mr. McCoy. Raise one to him because, yeah, of course the Navigator went and died on Jack. Of course he did. After that inspirational, after hope, of course. Is all Jack can say after being told that he had a heart attack. And to be double sure, Jack gives him a little nudge with his foot and he just repeats the Yeah, poor Jack. That switch will get you good because the omens have just gone, oh, actually, no. Just, no. Oh, you were feeling good? You were feeling hopeful? Yeah, no. Jack takes Featherstone aside and he asks, you know where we're going, right? You've got the info that can get us to the destination. You got that off him. And sort of Featherstone hesitates to answer this time, confirming, I think, that he was humouring Jack a bit in the cabin, and maybe Jack knows it. So in this moment, he has no time for uncertainty or Featherstone telling him what he wants to hear, and he just says, "Do not fuck with me." Oh, this is such a funny Jack scene. And Featherstone sort of, of course, he says, yeah, of course I can, truly, I can get us there. He's almost certain he can figure it out. And yeah, again, the tone is completely shifted for Jack now. Once again, he just seems to be down on his luck. But as we've seen before, and as we know from history, when things don't appear to be in his favour is when you often get the best out of Jack Rackham. So yeah, we're going to put a pin in him for this episode. He needs some rest, let him recuperate. But yeah, just absolutely great scenes taking us through all Jack's emotions. Just a rainbow. Yeah, just an absolute rainbow of emotions. And yeah, that scene, that is probably my biggest laugh in the whole show, I think. It's one of them. It's top 3 at least. It really is a you just have to laugh sort of moment because of just the unfortunate absurdity of it. And like I say, it is just so Jack. It's so Jack. It couldn't and it wouldn't happen to anyone else. It just wouldn't. But yeah, let's leave Jack now and move on to Skeleton Island. Get into serious mode. All right. Thank you, Jack, for a laugh at the start. Let me recharge. Okay, so yeah, we start off with Woodes Rogers deep in thought, looking out to the island. He's just thinking up a new play. He's frustrated on delays. So Billy approaches and Woodes Rogers asks him which one is going to prevail. And Woodes Rogers points out to Billy if Silver is incorrect on him being able to retrieve the cash, he will have some difficult choices to make. And yeah, Woodes Rogers, he looks haggard here. He looks tired. We know he's being haunted by Eleanor's ghost in one way or the other. Guilty conscience, whatever it may be. And Billy says Silver has the advantage, the men, Flint's on his own. But he sort of says, that being said, it's Flint. Flint's been on his own and disadvantaged countless times since I've known him. And yet, still here we are, Billy says. If I were you, I would assume the worst and act while you still can. Just hurry up and get stranded, Billy. Seriously, hurry up and get stranded. I'm actually absolutely done with Billy now. He just wants Woodes Rogers to do his rage attack, to do his low-down sneak attack, because he can't get his petty revenge until Woodes Rogers gives the order. That is how desperate Billy's become, how pathetic he's become, needing the enemy to set an attack in motion. Just how far he's fallen. But yeah, Woodes Rogers' reluctance is interesting. But I'm let's not pretend he really has any qualms about attacking on a white flag. We've seen it, and we know he's done it previously before it. But yeah, it seems Billy, as he intended to do, has given him that extra boost, that extra morale, sort of for the greater good reason to justify attacking, and Madi, in her defiance, will just bring forth it all in frustration, impatience, and petulance for Woodes Rogers. But I don't believe it's anything deeper than, he just wants that cash. That's what he wants. So that's what, so he's going to hold back because, once he attacks, it's likely gone forever. He knows that. So that is why I think he's holding mostly. But yeah, and he makes it clear here that he wants to try again with Madi. And yeah, Billy sort of points out he thinks it's pointless. But again, he wants it to be pointless. And yeah, Woodes Rogers may be sensing that from Billy. He sort of looks to him and says, "You are for now a necessary evil here. Do not test my patience." Yeah, you're a lapdog here, Billy. Do you know what I mean? You're a lapdog. How's that feel? How's that feel, mate? But yeah, Billy, again, does know Madi better than he does. And yeah, he happens to be absolutely correct. Alright, let's get on to this great scene with Woodes Rogers and Madi. This might actually be my favourite scene of the episode, which is maybe odd considering all the Flint and great Flint and Silver stuff. But the way that kind of flows, it's very choppy, isn't it? And it's very hard to kind of pick one moment out of it. I just think the whole lot is fantastic with them two. So I think overall, just a one long kind of scene. I think this one probably takes it. Yeah, just the way this is shot, the dramatic sound effects from the knitting needles clicking in time to emphasise words. Madi being defiant again despite his threat. Eleanor's ghost making an appearance as well. Anyway, let's get into it. So yeah, this is brilliant acting by Luke Roberts and Zefu Dolmo Mafale. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. I've never heard her name said out loud. Or is it Zetu? Maybe you don't pronounce the H. I don't think you pronounce the H. But yeah, it's brilliant from both of them. But it is the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, Luke Roberts especially, he has tears like welling up in his eyes throughout most of this scene. But they never quite spill. They never quite spill. I don't know if it's lighting or there was a little bit of CGI in there. But it really, I think it's him. And it just looks like he's just holding them in throughout, but not one tear spills. Again, is it mourning, tiredness, frustration, likely some loneliness? As discussed last episode, he's no allies at all left really now. Just Billy, just someone clinging on because of his own needs. Even Captain Handsome was sounding a bit weary of his side missions. So yeah, he comes in and he starts lovingly, as he always would. You have no idea the restraint this takes not to resolve to violence, he starts off by saying. So yeah, again, I'm not ready to feel any sort of particular way towards him. The monster's still very much there. That smallest bit of guilty conscience, regret, man he at least pretended to be when we first met him, is kind of still evident there, I think. Maybe trying to come out a little bit for the sake of Eleanor. But his emotional pause before he says the next bit is interesting though. Compromise seems like a loathsome, unbearable act. What compromise can there be with the man responsible of the death of my wife? So even though I think he had his moment of understanding, he played a huge part in Eleanor's death, while he apologised to her corpse back in episode 7, he's doubling back down on it, it's everyone else's fault, not mine, telling himself it was ultimately Flint's fault, so I'm going to use that to justify any awful things I'm about to do. And yeah, Maddie's absolutely about to call him out on it. He sits and we start to hear a clicking, and just out of focus we see what is clearly Eleanor, knitting. She wasn't learning to knit, you prick. She was embroidering. I'm sure this has to be deliberate and not a production mistake. Or them thinking her knitting would have more impact in the sound with needles, rather than a quieter kind of embroidering would. No, this has to be pointing out that even though in his own hauntings from Eleanor, he still doesn't even know her. Even when it's in his mind and he can make her be doing whatever he wants for a guilty conscience, she's still being moulded by him to suit his purpose, his narrative, in this avenging husband nonsense. The quiet wife sat there knitting away. Again, she wasn't learning to knit. Oh, it makes me mad. Anyway. He says it's her voice he hears arguing against what he's about to do. That's his struggle, maybe, I think. That is why he's looking so haggard. And again, he would be right in this, because she would fight this. Which again, is maybe fair to him. A deserved haunting, but the smallest of fair play to him for trying something else before a sly, cowardly sneak attack. He says, if I must compromise to avert a dark end, then so must you. Yeah, it's so transparent, and Madi can read him like a book, and he's not even in the right section of Maddie's library, but she's about to read a bitch. Woo! Sometimes I write bars, alright? Sometimes I write bars. That was a bar. Yeah, maybe he does generally want to avoid bloodshed. I don't think so, but yeah, I think he's spinning a line to try and appeal to Madi. And maybe Eleanor is appearing as his guilty conscience, as a sort of, wow, really? You're really doing this? And that's why he is so conflicted. But yeah, he wants to win. So yeah, he's using her death as that trigger. He says, I've come to you one last time to ensure you can't say no. Yeah, again, you don't know Madi at all, Woods Rogers. You just don't know her. And Madi says she will accept no treaty. But he quickly says, accept it, and John Silver lives. Refuse, and he dies along with the rest of the men who followed him here. So yeah, he's proposing to her what he did to Flint and Silver, basically, which is just awful of him to put her now on the other side of it. You know, she's been the victim of it, now she's the one that's got to choose. Basically, he's saying to her, she and Silver could make a life together if she accepts. Do not make the same mistake I did. Do the deal. And yeah, Eleanor's knitting, it becomes a little bit frantic. And yeah, this man just has no idea who he's talking to. And Madi points out she knows it's Eleanor's voice he hears in his head, but she hears voices too. A chorus of voices. Multitudes. They reach back centuries. People who lost their lives to men like you. Forced to wear your chains. I must answer to them. And this war. Their war. Flint's war. My war. It will not be bargained away to avoid a fight. To save John Silver's life, or his men's, or mine. And you believe what you will, but it was neither I, nor Flint, nor the Spanish raid that killed your wife. That you did. Woo! Round of applause for Madi. Round of applause. Damn, Madi has got some balls. Absolute balls. Absolutely no fear of Woods Rogers and his threat. She's made him immediately, called him out on all of it, and just flat out says not buying any of it. Another side of the coin to Flint, you know. But of course, such different motives for Madi than for Flint. But yeah, of course, a complete counter to Silver's reaction at the threat of her life. Which, yeah, does make me feel for Silver a little bit in this moment. But of course, a lot to come next episode with those two. But yeah, during this amazing monologue by Madi, the needles are clicking when she sort of emphasises those strong words. Almost like Eleanor is kind of cheering her on from the afterlife, like giving her a chorus, you know, you go girl. So yeah, when Madi's speech ends, the knitting stops and we focus in on Eleanor just staring at Woods Rogers. And yeah, his plan, it didn't work. He tried to sort of use his example with Eleanor against her in terms of Silver, but he just doesn't know who Madi is, what she's here for. She defied him, and so now Woods Rogers, he can sort of stop pretending his justifications and just let Eleanor's ghost rest now. Or, you know, and sort of accept that she wouldn't want this. So yeah, I think that's what her kind of disappearing in that moment represents. He's letting her go because he knows she wouldn't like what he's about to do next and he doesn't want her to see it, sort of thing. I think there's a little bit of that going on. But yeah, so he orders Madi taken back down below. And we relax a little bit on first watch because we're not sure what he's going to do in that moment because he's not happy, obviously. But of course, it's an MVP nomination for Madi. While the contrast between her and Silver's actions on each other's life can appear cold from her side, of course, as she passionately states, there's just so much at stake at this war for her, just so much more behind it, so much more that she could possibly change, bring forth a better future for so many people. And yeah, like Flint, she maybe is a little blindsided by it, but yeah, her reasons are understandable and noble. She has faith they can make a difference. And yeah, we know she loves Silver, we've seen evidence of it, but as I've said before, this is really what she came here to do, this war. This is the sacrifice a great leader makes, unlike Woods Rogers, you know, who's just going for revenge, wasting time. We know she's avoided that in the past, as much as she wanted to back in Season 3, when her man was beaten, if we remember. She fought against her instincts for the bigger picture. And just Woods Rogers, he could never be that person. But yeah, really great scene, really great scene. But yeah, of course, things haven't gone his way. So Woods Rogers is ready to just abandon the cache and just kill everyone in his path. Just in absolute revenge and a final kind of kind of middle finger. So yes, Woodes Rogers sets his plan in motion, and we cut to Ben Gunn and De Groot. They're on deck, and Ben Gunn is paranoid. The island is already getting to him. He thinks he can hear a woman wailing from the trees. And yeah, after a recent reread of the book of Treasure Island, I really appreciate what the show did with Ben Gunn. It's short and sweet, but I do appreciate it. He is obviously going to become sort of marooned for years, and he sort of becomes pretty much a wild hermit. And yeah, with the bit of history they already gave him on the show as well, you know, being a prisoner for the Maroon Queen, this guy really doesn't have a lot of luck, does he? But it kind of really pans out well for that kind of frail, paranoid kind of man we're seeing here. But yeah, De Groot points out that a few of the men's minds are playing tricks on them. It's not just him. Of course, yeah, again, it's just an island in this world, and this is superstition and stories working their magic on the men. But as I said, it does tie into the book so well. And yeah, as De Groot says, there are no monsters in the dark, though there are dangers. Says he should ignore the tales and just focus on the reality. De Groot being the calm one in a stressful situation. Bloody hell. And what is the reality? Captain Handsome and some men stealth swimming through the mist with some wood and explosive barrels. I can't believe I've called a character Captain Handsome for however many episodes now. But, you know, it's too late. It's happened. It's a thing. So, yeah, they make their play and a fire breaks out on the Walrus and launches are spotted in the water. De Groot works out immediately that they are dead men walking. The Walrus is aflame, and despite efforts to flood the hold to tame the fires, De Groot knows it's spread too far and will reach the magazine eventually. Sadly, really sadly, he orders the abandoned ship. I swear to you that this watch through, that abandoned ship, that nearly got me. That's why I thought it was a really powerful title. It nearly got me, you know, knowing the Walrus is doomed after all she's been through, you know, and just hearing De Groot's resigned order. Yeah, very sad, very sad. The powder kegs are going up and the Walrus is absolutely for it. The men are jumping off the ship and they're swimming for their lives. But who should be ready to snipe? It's old crewmate Billy. Oh, mate, this is hard, isn't it? This is hard to watch. So yeah, De Groot orders them to swim to shore, but the snipe team is revealed when he is sent to Davy Jones' locker by a fatal shot to the head. R.I.P. De Groot, let's raise one to him. Been here since the beginning. An irritating voice of reason sometimes, but loyal, hardworking, smart. So then other, to my knowledge, unnamed Walrus crew members are taken out with absolute ease. Billy not even flinching, executing former brothers with cold emotion. Was it worth it, Billy? I mean, really, was it worth it? I doubt it in the grand scheme of it. But on seeing Ben Gunn and remembering that Ben let him go when the Spanish raids came, he pauses and he gives Gunn time to swim away. Showing, yeah, loyalty is important to Billy, but he's got things just so twisted, so much hatred on a situation that he ultimately brought on himself with stubbornness. And yeah, again, this is nothing but a Weasley revenge play for him. I'll obviously come back to all of it in their section, but this is the point where Flint and Silver have stopped their fight and they make way to see the carnage just as the Walrus is burning. And they both just observe it blow up in front of them. And yeah, they just look to each other. Again, I'll get back to all the meat of that in that scene. But yeah, let's raise a glass and take a big gulp for the fallen Walrus crew and for the Walrus itself. And in a chaotic twist of the rules, I'm going to give an MVP nomination to the ship itself, to the Walrus, deserving a final bit of credit before she's lost in the waters of Skeleton Island forever. So yeah, R.I.P. old girl. Alright, I think that's that section. So yeah, let's move on to the final section and to Flint and Silver. Okay, yeah, so there, let's get into this one. So when I said Flint was flinting at his finest, damn, this is good stuff. Damn, this is good stuff. He is just making things so difficult for Silver. And yeah, this episode opens to one of those great flashback scenes. I love the filtering used, you know, really toning all the colour down. I think what we see here is real in these scenes, but they do feel more kind of tailored to Silver's kind of POV. That filter will come back into play next episode. where I'm not at all sold on its reliability. These scenes almost feel like a little bit of a warm-up to that, like a little bit like a, oh, prepare yourself, it might not be entirely what's being presented to you. So Silver makes his way to Flint, who is waiting for him with a sword. I love the shot of Flint just appearing kind of out of focus. He's wearing all black, so he just looks like a mysterious kind of shadow at first. Just, yeah, gorgeous drone shots as well of the landscape and of Silver walking towards him. Just so many fantastic shots this episode. I know Editing Me has been using my great favourite kind of shot title card a lot. So yeah, these scenes are kind of set between seasons 3 and 4. You know, they have their fleet now, they have their coalition, and they're just kind of regrouping, ready to take Nassau. And yet Flint observes this to Silver as he kind of stares at Nassau in the distance. He's looking very pensive, he's calm, he knows it's a big task to take on Nassau, and says to Silver, I cannot do it without you. And so already here in a prequel scene to the season we've just watched, we can see their difference in what they're about to do. Hope from Flint and kind of disbelief and kind of a little bit of disregard from Silver. It's really subtle, but it's already there in these moments. And yet Flint comes to the conclusion that Silver should learn to swing a sword properly. Of course, yeah, up to this point, Silver's been very scrappy and he's very survivalist, but there's no real kind of skill involved in his technique. So yeah, Flint just wants to give him better odds. So yeah, Silver notices a crutch, and yeah, Flint knows how he feels about being seen without the leg, but he continues, but when the fighting begins, all that matters is what makes for the greatest advantage. He pauses a moment to finish when Silver removes his false leg quickly without fuss in front of him, and Silver basically says, the men are one thing, but I think me and you, we're past pride now. Again, yeah, this taking place not long after that season 3 finale, where their bond and their respect just excel to another level. But yeah, that small seed of discontent, student overtaking the master, has also been made by Silver. So yeah, Silver asks, is a few weeks really going to make much a difference? Am I not what I am at this point? And it's better than nothing, Flint says, handing him a sword. Again, just another little exchange that when you look back on in hindsight and think, damn, you know, this was never going to hold out. Just there's so many just little subtle differences between them. Because yeah, here's Silver, you know, pretty quick to give up, call it a day. What's a few more weeks going to matter in the grand scheme of it? But Flint, you know, with that non-defeatist attitude, it's better than nothing, you never know, sort of thing. And yet Silver stares at the sword a moment and asks if he's not concerned. You say you'll be teaching me to fight, but if every man fights differently, it seems you'll really be teaching me how to defeat you. And yet Flint smiles and says, I'll take my chances. Oh dear, the foreshadowing. And yeah, they begin sparring, and yeah, just great stuff to set real-time events into motion. Of which we open to Silver rowing over to Hans on shore. Again, amazing visuals of this damn beautiful island. Creators just went absolutely all out. And yeah, Hans says they spotted Flint and Dooley in the distance, and the men are giving chase. Silver nervous though, he knows all Flint needs to do is bury that chest somewhere unknown, and he's won, that's it. After Hans asks how long they have, Silver says Woods Rogers says until sunrise tomorrow, but he is doubtful that they do really have that long. So yeah, Silver's got Woods Rogers' number, you know, he knows he's not completely to be trusted, his word isn't to be trusted, and he knows he's sort of preparing to make a move, which move he does. So yeah, Silver absolutely needs that chest to bargain with ASAP. And at this point, a gunshot is heard in the distance, and so they go to investigate. And yeah, the gunshot has been made by their men, much to Silver's frustration. And yeah, Flint's trail has split into two paths. And yeah, one man points out he wants to divide our numbers, and they thought he, Silver, might have a better idea of which way he went. And Silver's just like, how the fuck do I know which way he chose? And every moment we spend kind of divering here is giving him more chance to hide it forever, he sort of says. And he goes, you two that way, you three that way, go. And yet once the men go, Hans points out that they're right, which of course they are. Flint does mean to separate them and gain an advantage. And Silver sort of says, I know. Yeah, Silver understanding what he's just done, and if we the viewer didn't get the significance, Hans says it's likely you just sent one of those groups to their death, and Silver calmly says as long as they expose his position. And Hans says, I wonder if he knows just how much you learnt from him. And yeah, we saw last episode, we're seeing it again here. This is absolutely a calculated, necessary, evil play Flint would make in desperation. In fact, a move that he did make in the season 3 finale, you know, knowing he was always going to order the retreat on the beach, so men being sacrificed in that regard. And Silver is doing here what's needed to achieve his goal, despite, you know, all that talk about these men are my brothers and all that bond and strong brotherhood. He's doing it as well here, just to do what he needs to do to achieve his goal. And yeah, the camera pans to Silver's face, and yeah, there's a lot going on there on it. Anger, frustration, regret, just so much. Luke Arnold just doing a great job this episode with those expressions and just the absolute conflictions going on with him. This absolutely isn't easy for Silver by any means. Despite the Order seemingly being so callous and cold, it's not easy for him. And I don't think he likes Flint bringing that out of him. So we cut back to a flashback and they're sparring. And Silver really looks like he's giving it everything. And Flint just looking so at ease. And yeah, Flint points out he's kind of still watching his eyes rather than the kind of blades and the handle. He sort of says a good way to get yourself killed. Again, subtle differences. Silver watches, he reads people, goes by instinct that way, sort of facial expressions. But Flint mostly is kind of more strategic in his approach. That's sort of what he's explaining here. He sort of goes about being a bit like past and present tense on the hand. Flint says all warfare is the same, sort of 2 points of importance. Who is my opponent today? Who was he yesterday? Answer those 2 questions and there's very little he can. And he sort of fades out a moment and he finishes, hide from you. And so yeah, it finally seems like we're about to get Silver's backstory. We've sort of found out everyone else's sort of main character, but all we really know from Silver was that he was an orphan, and even that's not a certainty, as sort of Flint's about to point out. And yet Flint's realised in this moment he has no idea who Silver was before they found him. And yeah, Silver sort of jokes at the serious tone that Flint's just taken. He's uncomfortable and he wants to change the subject. But yeah, Flint, he wants to know. So yeah, this frustrates me a little bit. This frustrates me for Flint more than anything. It's perfect for Silver. It's perfect for his mystery. Yeah, let's get into it quickly before jumping kind of into my thoughts about it all. Sort of Silver goes over some of the basics again. You're born in Whitechapel. He mentions it's unremarkable, mentions the home for boys, and sort of Flint points out, yeah, you told me that, you know, in a couple of stories, and points out he didn't think much of it. If he became someone worth knowing, he'd figure out the truth of it eventually. But he's realising in this moment that never happened. And what's concerning to him, despite how invested they are in each other for the future, Silver's just lied to his face about his past once again, and he sort of asks him why. And yeah, I really feel Flint's hurt here, I really feel it, you know, and Silver, he tries to brush it off, but Flint says the more he tries to dismiss this, he just can't. He points out Silver knows his story, the role it played in motivating him in all he's done and will do. It's made him transparent to Silver. And once again, Silver kind of tries to lighten the mood, brush it off, but Flint cuts him off and says, he's not angry. You know my story, but for some reason I cannot figure. I don't want you to know mine, Silver finishes, his tone now also serious. And yeah, on a first watch, this was really frustrating. Silver just won't give him anything. Why? So yeah, my suspicion on subsequent rewatches is that Silver really went through some extreme abuse somewhere along the line as a young boy. Mental, physical, sexual perhaps all three. Hence when we met him, you know, he was kind of sneaky, weaselly, blended in his surroundings, looking out for number one. You know, probably because he was used to having to do that. You know, maybe he never had anyone to rely on. And he was sort of a nomad with no friends when we met him. No sense in loyalty, because maybe he never got the chance to trust anyone, because people always let him down. That would tie in with a traumatic background. That would make sense to me on why he just doesn't want to talk about it. You know, why he started out making stories as a young boy, because it was better than the situation that he was in. That's the kind of impression I get by his reactions and kind of the next scene in this flashback. Sort of shame and embarrassment. And yeah, so with no counselling or anything like that in these times, no one to tell him it wasn't his fault, you know, anything like that. It would be some deep-rooted trauma that he just wouldn't want Flint to know. He'd be embarrassed and shamed about. That has to be my headcanon backstory for Silver. Otherwise, I would really struggle with this scene. I can't let it fly without that being the case. Does that make sense? I think that is the case. I think if I've read it right, that is the case. But then again, it's Silver. It's just so much mystery, you know, you never really know. But part of me still wishes he'd given Flint something, though. And as we'll see, you know, so does Flint. I mean, he sort of does, I suppose. We'll come to that in a minute when we get to the scene. So we cut back to the action, to live, to real time. And yeah, the first group have come across Flint digging. He's seemingly oblivious to them being there. But this is James Flint, and we know he knows exactly what he's doing. You know what? Let's get the MVP nomination early for Flint, because this is just so badass. It's so badass. So yeah, using the creeks and nature's noises and scenery, he sort of somehow dips out of sight, and then he just comes out of nowhere for a sneak attack, taking out all three men pretty relatively easy. And yet the tension, though, it's built so well in this scene. Yeah, this man is just a tactical genius who just seemingly so at home on this island. The way it goes from sort of really deadly quiet to Flint just coming from nowhere charging. So good, so good, so good. And yeah, R.I.P. to the 3 unnamed Walrus crew members. I'm going to need a wee after this one. So yeah, Silver and Hans, they come across the dead men. No sign or trails. And yeah, there's a bit of thinking aloud, kind of exposition monologuing from Silver. And he ultimately works out Flint's already hidden the cash somewhere. He wouldn't have time to be doing all this otherwise. And it's likely back from where they've just came. And Hans sort of says, what are you going to do about it? You know, you've been warned so many times by Billy, by me. Despite that, I think when we meet him again, you will look for reason to forget it all. When he starts talking, you won't have learned a goddamn thing. Yeah, Hans still absolutely hates Flint for whatever reason. But from a neutral perspective, Silver's flim-flamming, it would absolutely do your head in terms of Flint. And of course, yeah, deep down, we do know Hans is right. Silver really does try to the very end, tries everything not to have to kill Flint, despite how angry he is with him. So yeah, around about this point, Silver works out that Flint's played them, and that he left the cash a bit further back. And we cut to Dooley and Flint retrieving it from the drop spot, and yeah, they're carrying it along, and Dooley airs his concerns on how Silver can still be a part of their operation. Both kind of the side men to Flint and Silver, you know, Dooley and Hans, you know, they both know that ultimately they don't want to kill the other, and they're sort of trying to make them see reason almost. It's weird because neither want to kill each other, but they're both at odds. But their men are like, no, you've got to do it, you know, what are you holding out for? And Flint's still so sure, you know, he says he'll come round once she's safe. He'll be able to see things clearly again. And again, yeah, just echoing what Hans thinks will happen. You know, what Flint is confident he can make so that he can talk Silver round again. He's absolutely sure of it. And Dooley says if Silver needs to go, he'll do it. He doesn't think Flint should have to carry that burden with all that's to come. But when we see Flint's face, it's clear to see he no more wants to kill Silver now than Silver does him. He's still holding out faith in him. And so we cut back to our last flashback scene with these two. And yeah, they're still sparring. And this is obviously a little bit later. Because in that last one, Silver kind of walked away when he didn't really want to talk about it anymore. But here it's obviously another day. And yeah, they're still sparring. And Flint is still getting the better of him. But Flint's clearly hurt and he's distracted. And it's all kind of business and his heart's not really in it this time. And Silver can see that. So he sort of pauses the sparring. And he says he has no story to tell. Which Flint and I are like, yeah, alright. But, you know, no one's past is that unremarkable, Flint says. And if so, just tell him. Just tell him then. And Silver says, not unremarkable, but without relevance. He doesn't want his backstory to define him. You know, events no one can define any meaning from other than the world's a place of unending horrors. Yeah, again, I really think from that, he had some bad shit happen, and he doesn't want it to define him. You know, he doesn't want it to be used against him maybe as well. He says he's come to peace with the knowledge that there's no storyteller composing any coherence nor sense or grace upon these events. Therefore, there's no duty on my part to search for it. You know of me, all I can bear to be known, all that is relevant to be known. You know my genuine friendship and loyalty. Can that be enough and there still be trust between us? Ooh, I don't know. You know, there can be understanding that something awful must have happened, but something awful happened to Flint, you know, and he shared it all with Silver. So again, I really do feel for Flint here. I don't think there can still be complete trust between them, and there clearly isn't going forward, even if it's just a smidgen. But yeah, you know, Silver just really sort of saying, I don't want to lie to you about it, but I haven't got the words for the truth as well, sort of thing, which is also from his side understandable. Some stuff you just can't say out loud. It is too hard if that is really what has happened. Again, while I believe Silver has some trauma, hints at some dark stuff, I think not even giving Flint the basics just yet cannot give him full trust. It just can't, surely. And yeah, I think that is evident on Flint's face here, and something small does shift between them. You know, something small is lost, I think, in this moment. So yeah, next time we cut back to real time, and Flint and Dooley are carrying the cash through a forest, and who should they come across? Joji. Oh, I love this reveal. I love Joji. You know, Winston Chong, he's in 35 episodes, but he never utters a word. He never says a word. Yeah, so much mystery surrounding him, but Flint knows he can wield a sword, and what a sword he wields. And yeah, the tension in this is fantastic, and you can see on Flint's face, he knows this is going to be hard. He knows. A second man is revealed, and maybe it is just because he's closer to him. Flint goes for that guy immediately, leaving Dooley to take on Joji. It might be convenience, like I say, but this is Flint. Of course he's going to go for the easier guy first, in the hope that either Dooley succeeds or at least fatally injures kind of Joji. As usual, I won't go through it all kind of blow by blow, but the drums and the way this is shot just absolutely gets the adrenaline pumping. Joji does some damage to Dooley, puts a sword through his hand kind of damage, just as Flint puts a sword through his man, but it's a far more fatal blow. And yeah, so he and Joji, they face off. So many questions, you know, what does Joji understand? Is he mute? Surely he must have picked up some English kind of in all the time he's been with them on the Walrus. Is he sick of all of it? A bit over Flint, or is he under Silver's spell? Yeah, so much mystery, so much what if with him. But yeah, they square up, and yet again, just great swashbuckling action. Not really had, you know, one-on-ones like this since Flint and Blackbeard. There's been some close combat action on ships and things. Take a Bow Wow and Bonnie. But yeah, it's not been an all-or-nothing one-on-one like this for a while. But yeah, it's tough, but Flint ultimately prevails. It really looks like it's gone the other way for a moment when you sort of hear a sword piercing flesh. See both men fall, but it's revealed that Joji is the victim. And yeah, and so we raise a glass to another Walrus brother, to silent assassin Joji. I've nearly down this big old cup from how many bloody mornings we've been doing. Yeah, silent assassin Joji, we hardly knew you, old friend. So yeah, when Flint stands and composes himself, he looks to the distance, and we just get a chilling shot of Silver and Hands watching on. They know where he is, there's no one else left. This is getting down to the wire, and looking like it's going to be a showdown. And neither man looked particularly happy about this prospect. So yeah, in a cave now, and Flint and Dooley are regrouping. Flint knows that Silver and Hands are close to them, so he leaves Dooley to bury the cash. A lot of trust put in Dooley here. Other than that scene kind of last episode, I don't know if I've seen that trust kind of warranted throughout the show, but Flint really is out of options in terms of allies, so yeah, he really has no choice. So yeah, he's going to try and stall, At this point, they already talked about attack on the Walrus is going down, so those scenes and these next scenes are really spliced quite frequently throughout the episode. The tension built just so well. So yeah, we are now by a swamp. Great scenery, and yeah, Hans is searching for Flint and he appears behind him and cocks a pistol. One of those things on first watch where you are confident Hans will be okay, as he's in the book, but that doesn't lower the tension and stakes any less. I was also confident that they weren't going to kill Flint in the penultimate episode either. So again, even though I was quite sure of the outcome for both these upcoming fights, the tension is still some of the best it's ever been. So yeah, Flint tries to talk him out of it, says it's preferable to him that they resolve this another way. He needs as many men as possible for what's next, including him. But we know Hans is absolutely not buying anything Flint's selling. I think generally, at the end of the day, he wants to be Silver's new right-hand man. That kind of connection to the king, if you like. He wants to be the next in line, the advisor, the hand of the king, pretty much. And he knows right now that is Flint. And I think as far as motives go, that's kind of it, really. But yeah, here we know he is not going to be talked around by the very same man that he's telling Silver to get over and move on from. You know, no chance. But Flint, he puts his pistol away. He thinks he's succeeded, you know, in Hans' silence. But Hans just says coldly, he'll be here in a moment. You still think you'll persuade him to see this all your way? I don't think so, but I prefer not to find out. And so, yeah, we sort of see Flint's face like, oh shit, he wants to fight. You know, and again, yeah, it's another stunning setting by a swamp. Just amazing visuals. I think of these scenes every time I pass a couple of my local swampy ponds on my walks. You know, always reminds me of it. So yeah, Flint draws his sword, Hans draws his hammer and sword, and they frantically go at it. And yeah, Flint is first to make a mark, cutting Hans on the arm, causing him to kind of drop his hammer, yelp out loud. And yeah, after a bit more scrapping, it looks like Flint is about to make the killing blow, but Silver arrives and orders enough. And yeah, Flint gives Hans a knee to the face for good measure to knock him out, because he knows he'd sneak attack him given half the chance. If we weren't so close, you know, to the end of the show, then Hans is a person that Flint knows he'd have to take out. You know, if he still wanted to keep Silver on side, he knows at this point Hans is someone he'd have to take out the picture. So yeah, Silver asks Flint to tell him where it is. You know, he's getting more frustrated every time Flint denies him. You know, he sort of says it's staying in the ground until Madi is freed and they all return to the camp. Yeah, just bless him, he's still going. He's still going. He's still clinging on to the hope that they can get over this and prevail from the situation. Saving Madi is still very much part of his plan. And yeah, you can't help but admire the willpower of this man. You just cannot help yourself. As with Madi. But yeah, you just sigh in the inevitability of failure. You know, you just know this is doomed to fail. Flint says, I know why you see this cannot be, but it must be. Every moment we waste is a moment we could be working to retrieve her. And Silver says with emotion, this is all this has ever been, isn't it? A partnership, only in enabling you to do whatever it is that matters to you in any given moment. Says it matters less to him whether she lives or dies, only that it happens his way on your terms. And yes, Silver, he made a similar observation back on the fucking warship in the season 2 opener. But as Flint says, Silver knows it's not as simple as that. Silver knows why and what Flint's fighting for, but he's doing a little bit of a Woodes Rogers, a bit of a Billy, you know, and telling himself what he wants to justify his actions here. And yet Flint's hit a nerve with him. Flint says, even if you could kill me, if that somehow helps you see her alive again, how are you going to explain it to her? Oh, I'm sure he'll think of something. I'm sure he'll think of something. And yeah, Flint continues, she believes in this as much as I do. If it costs a war to save her, you would have lost her anyway. Even you cannot construct a story to make her forgive you that. Oh, the foreshadowing. Oh, the foreshadowing. We've only got one more episode to go, but it's there. It's all there, spelled out in black and white. Well, spelled out in grey, I should say. So yeah, we cut back to the flashback sparring for a moment, and then once we are back in real time, Silver slowly, reluctantly takes his sword, and Flint says, you do this, and you're going to regret it. You know, he says it with so much emotion. He really, you know, both men, they really don't want this to happen. I can't believe it's come to this, but so at odds, seemingly no way to move forward. And yeah, in the flashback, Silver makes a couple of successful parries finally, and he has bested him. And so we cut to something that we know has been coming one way or another on that first watch. You know, we know it's been coming all season pretty much. They have been destined to cross swords. And yeah, before they come to blows though, Dooley sneaks up behind Silver and Flint just cries, "No, don't," and he shoots him without hesitation. Yeah, it was definitely a no better option at the moment right now sort of partnership for Flint. No emotion in that. His main person is still Silver. Flint's still really holding out hope for Silver, killing his own man in that hope. And yeah, maybe without Han's pep talk, Silver might have hesitated to attack here. I don't know, maybe not. Madi's still at stake, isn't she? But yeah, too much has gone down now. Too much. And yeah, just more great music. Sort of tribal chanting as they cross swords. No audio from the fight itself. Just, yeah, goosebump inducing stuff. Really seeming like a fight to the death here. But it doesn't go on too long. And we sort of see both of them turn their heads just as we know the Walrus is going up. You know, the one thing that could bring them back together, if only temporarily, if only fragile, is, yeah, the Walrus, their brothers being taken down like this. And yeah, it's another massive hurdle, another loss in Flint's war. And, you know, it's worry for Silver in terms of Madi. Was she there? Is she there amongst all this chaos? But of course, the Walrus, as observed earlier in the season, yeah, it's been through so much. And yeah, both these men are part of it, seemingly bringing them both to the mind. Bigger fish to fry right now than this little squabble. And so to finish, we cut to another flashback scene. This time it's Silver and Madi, and it's around the same sort of time as we've been seeing these other scenes, before she has fully seen how invested Flint was, and she's still a little bit doubtful of him, and it's Silver that's actually trying to talk her around. Yeah, before they've become so aligned that then changes Silver's perspective on it all. And yeah, he sort of says, "Can't you see it? It's not utility that's behind his investment in me, not necessity or dependency. I have earned his respect. After all the tragedies that man has suffered." And then, yeah, he lists them sort of thing as the Walrus just blows up in real time. Just another tragedy for Flint. And yeah, Silver finishes by saying, "I have earned his trust, his true friendship, so he is going to have mine. As long as that is true, I cannot imagine what is possible." Oh dear, yeah, this ends so hopeful. And yeah, they do, like I say, come back together, along with Jack, you know, for a final great takedown of Woods, Rogers and Billy. But yeah, of course, on getting Madi back safe, on seeing that cowardly cook, you know, Silver's ready to call it next episode. But I am going to leave that here for them for this episode. And yeah, we can get into that in the finale. But yeah, for now, let's call that the deep dive. And let's get an MVP sorted.
Last item.
Okay, so we have Madi, Flint, and the Walrus. So yeah, the Walrus, it is for the sentiment really, you know, I just wanted to give it its moment more than anything. So it is ultimately between Flint and Madi. This is one of those I'm really gutted for, and do wish I could have given it to both Madi and Flint. I really don't like that Madi's final count is just one. I really would have loved her to grab another before this ended, for just here, you know, more defiance to Woods Rogers' face. But it's Flint. It's Flint. Of course it's Flint. It has to be Flint in this episode. It's frustrating. It's inspiring. You know, again, the outcome is just seemingly so inevitable. So not going to go his way ultimately. But you just cannot help but root for him until the very end. You're just cheering for it all. You want it all to go so right for him. You know, after everything, so desperate for him to succeed. You know, he outsmarts everyone, fights the Vanguard single-handedly, comes out on top against Joji, against Hans, still holding on to faith in Silver coming around. You know, he takes out his own ally to desperately cling on to that faith. There is just something so compelling about this guy. I don't know if he gets that MVP next episode as well. He's always in my head kind of been a favourite for it, but that is mostly just because of that speech. But for now, whether that's a cap or not, he is on 6 MVP wins. I do believe I jumped the gun and put an extra count somewhere along the line in the last couple, 1, maybe 2 updates. I'm not sure how he was already on 6, but this makes it his 6th. So if that caused any confusion anywhere, I've recounted, made absolutely positive. This is his 6th. But yeah, whether it's a final cap for Flint or not, I'm not sure. But if you've been keeping count, I don't think the winner's reveal is going to need to be too dramatic next episode. Let's just say that. And so, speaking of next episode, I'm going to run it usual format, though I probably will do the rundown, the deep dive in sequence. I think that's going to make life easier and it'll be a better rundown. I'm going to have a slightly longer final check-in with the episode's ranking and that final MVP count. I'll also quickly compare as well what my top 10 favourite characters were at the end of my first watch when I did my reactions to where those rankings stand now, because there's quite a lot of change and I thought it might be interesting. But otherwise, I don't want to overrun it too much, and so it leaves it open for me to do a couple more one-offs, maybe a few fun top 10 scenes, quotes. And as discussed last episode, I want to do a Black Cells Treasure Island kind of video, and I think I want to do a solo separate, really getting into that ambiguous ending that's to come next episode, though I will of course go into it a bit of my kind of thoughts of it. But yeah, either way, it is going to end up being a slightly longer episode than usual, I imagine, with some final thoughts for the time being. So yeah, definitely stock up on some snacks and drinks. So yeah, guys, I will see you very soon for that finale Black Cells deep dive episode. But take care, peace out, bye.